Where do the LA Kings stack up at the all-important center position compared to other Pacific Division teams? Are any Kings centers ranked in the top 10 among centers in the division? We'll explore that and more on this edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season's right around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for the past 30 years. Also one of the co-hosts of Locked On NHL Game Night, a nightly podcast and YouTube show that recaps the night in the NHL. During the offseason, we're previewing all 32 NHL teams to get you ready for next season. And, of course, a passionate LA Kings fan for over 30 years. Have you ever heard the term imitation is the highest form of flattery? Well, shout out to the boys over at Locked On Ottawa Senators. They do a fantastic job over there. Ross Levitan's been a guest on this show before, and I saw something that they were doing that I thought was pretty unique. I thought it was interesting, and so I gave them a shout out, asked would they mind if I applied what they were doing to the LA Kings and the Pacific Division, and they said have fun with it. So today on this show, we'll be looking at the different position groups of the 8 teams in the Pacific Division as far as the centers go. First line, second line, third line, fourth line centers for each individual team. Now we're going to do this going forward with the wingers and the defensemen and the goalies as well. But today we are focusing on the men in the middle. Now, obviously, if you want to be a good team in the NHL, you want to be strong down the middle. You have to have at least 2 solid centers to be a decent playoff team, unless you just have one center who is amazing. But usually you got to have a good 1-2 punch down the middle. Guys who can win faceoffs, play good defensively, and also provide offense. All very important factors to make a good center. So we're going to check out the Pacific Division and see where I think the teams stack up 1 through 4. And then at the end, when it's all said and done, we'll have a ranking of the top 10 overall centers out of the Pacific Division. Now we're going to look at each team's, again, projected 4 centers. This is according to puckpedia.com. This is going into the season and what they have as the projected lines. As far as what the criteria is to judge these players and these lines, it's based on obviously their performance from last year and somewhat what they've done over their careers as well. We are going to rank each team 8 through 1, talk a little bit about each player in each group, and we'll again wrap it up with a ranking of the top 10 overall centers in the Pacific Division, and obviously let you know where the LA Kings rank amongst that. So we will now look at our first group of centers. We'll go, again, 8 through 1. And by the way, if you are not a fan of my face, you're going to love this show because I put together some graphics to kind of count things down a little bit here. And so you're not going to see my face if you're watching on YouTube as much as you normally would. Again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. So again, let us begin with number 8 as far as looking at the center position for each team. And the 8th place team, in my opinion, out of the Pacific is the Vancouver Canucks. Their top line center is Elias Pettersson. Philip Hedl is their second line center. Teddy Bluger, their third line center. And Aatu Ratu is their third line center. It doesn't look like Ratu. His last name is spelled R-A-T-Y, but he's from Finland. They have unique names there. But Aatu Ratu is great name to say. Don't know that he's such a great player at this point, but we'll see. But we start, as far as the Canucks go, their success kind of starts and ends with Elias Pettersson. If you're not familiar with his game, a guy who at times has been a very, very good player for the Vancouver Canucks has been, if you were ranking the top 10 centers, which we're going to do later in this show, he would typically be in the top 10. He's not this year because he's coming off a really bad season. A lot of drama in Vancouver last season. There were a rift in the locker room between Elias Pettersson and JT Miller. Miller was shipped to New York. Peterson remains, and he did not have a good season. The numbers weren't there, and the pressure now is squarely on him to deliver going forward. Now, he's a guy who, again, in the past, he's been really good. He had a 102-point season 2 years ago, 89-point season the year before that. But last year, just 45 points. And again, it was on the ice, it was off the ice, just was not working out for him. So the Canucks have decided, all right, there was a rift between him and another player. We've gotten rid of the other player to appease him, but now it's all on him. And can he step up to the pressure? Can he take the scrutiny of what's going to come completely on him? Because if he can return to his form of 3 or 2 years ago, that will help immensely for the Vancouver Canucks. But if he again kind of wilts under the pressure, if he doesn't get off to a good start, in that market, it's all about the Canucks. They're going to be all over him. He's going to be answering the questions in the locker room. He didn't handle that all that well last season. So it's a big year for Elias Pettersson. And as he goes, so goes the Vancouver Canucks. If he's better, they should be better. That said, not a lot of help, though, at the center position the rest of the way. Philip Hedl came over in a trade with the Rangers. He's not really a second-line center, in my opinion. I think he's a third-line center, but that kind of goes to show you where the Canucks are at that position. He only had 26 points last year. Again, he's not a second-line center on a playoff team, in my opinion. Teddy Bluger is a third-line guy, which is where he slots in, but nothing big there. It's a veteran guy. And then we mentioned Aatu Ratu. Now, he's only 22 years old, and he's only played 33 NHL games, so we don't know what his abilities are yet. So a young guy getting a chance, it looks like, at least on the fourth line, to kind of see what he can do. But again, it's all about Elias Pettersson and the Vancouver Canucks. And by the way, I should clarify, it's all about Elias Pettersson, the forward, because there are two Elias Petterssons on the Vancouver Canucks. Thankfully, one's a defenseman, one's a forward. We're talking about the forward. That's the guy that's going to have the huge bullseye on him this coming season for Vancouver. Checking in at number 7 is the San Jose Sharks. A terrific 1-2 young punch for San Jose at the center position. Macklin Celebrini is the real deal. A terrific rookie season last year with 63 points, 25 goals, 38 assists. He finished third in the Calder Trophy voting for Rookie of the Year. Unfortunately for Kings fans, we're going to be seeing a lot of this guy leading the San Jose Sharks for many, many years to come. Also, fellow rookie Will Smith is the second-line center. He had not as good of a rookie year as Celebrini, but a solid rookie year. He finished 6th in the Calder Trophy voting. He finished with 45 points. Celebrini, I thought, was really special. Smith was good, but two young guys that they can build around for years to come. Unfortunately, the third and fourth line center positions for San Jose were a disaster. Barclay Goodrow and Ty Dellandrea combined for 16 points last year. Now, Goodrow's won a couple of cups with Tampa Bay. He's a veteran guy. He's there to kind of be a coach on the ice, maybe. But two good young players in your first and second center positions, but the third and fourth center spots are not good. Maybe two of the worst third and fourth line centers in the entire NHL in Barclay Goodrow and Ty Dellandrea. Coming up next, we've got the Calgary Flames checking in at number 6 in the division. Nazem Kadri is a legit top 10 center in the Pacific Division. We'll talk more about him later on. 67 points last year to lead the team. Unfortunately, that's about all they have at the center position in the Calgary Flames. Michael Backlund, their captain, has been a workhorse for them for many, many years. Good defensive player. He's played over 1,000 NHL games, all for the Flames, but he's on the back end of his career, just 32 points last season. And he's one of those guys. He's not a legit, real second-line center on a good team, but he is a second-line center on a team that's probably not going to make the playoffs. Morgan Frost and Martin Pospisil are the third and fourth line centers, and they're nothing special. They're third and fourth line players. And at number 5, I have the Anaheim Ducks checking in. Leo Carlson and Mason McTavish are a nice young 1-2 punch for them. A little bit interesting that Carlson's listed as the number 1 center, McTavish the number 2 center, even though McTavish has done better numbers last season across the board, had more goals, had more assists, had more total points, 52 points for him. Yet he's the second line center, so a little bit interesting there. But a decent 1-2 punch for the Ducks. Young guys that they can build around. McTavish, though, is the guy, and a good young player. He is a restricted free agent. He hasn't been signed yet. That's an interesting storyline going forward. There's trade rumors swirling around him, but he's a very good player. We'll see how it plays out. Ryan Strome and Ryan Poling are your third and fourth line centers. Veteran guys there just for depth. Nothing too special there, but okay players. So I got the Ducks at number 5 on our list of the top centers as far as the grouping in the Pacific Division. We've got our top 4 coming up, including a team that really surprised me by being ranked as low as they were. We will talk about that next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. Have you ever decided at the last minute you want to head to a ball game with family and friends? Maybe it's a game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. Well, that's exactly where Gametime can help you out. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on more food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Gametime makes it possible. They make buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying tickets. Gametime is the official ticketing partner of Locked On Major League Baseball. Make it easy to browse the app for the biggest games coming up for both the Dodgers and the Angels. Gametime has last-minute ticket deals and zone deals that can save you up to 10%. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNHL. You'll get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, we're continuing our countdown of the top center groups in the Pacific Division. We've got 4 through 1 coming up, and this next team really surprised me when I kind of looked at it, broke down the numbers. I did not expect this team to be this low, but at number 4, I have the Seattle Kraken checking in. Now, unfortunately for Seattle, they really don't have a legit number 1 center or that young up-and-coming center like the Sharks and the Ducks do necessarily. Matty Beniers is their top-line center. He was a former Rookie of the Year, and he's not a bad player, but I just don't think he's a legit number 1 center for a legit playoff team. Chandler Stevenson's their second-line center. He actually put up better numbers last year than Beniers did, with 51 points to Beniers' 43. But Matty Beniers, he had a good rookie year. He had 57 points, and they were like, okay, that's his rookie year. He's going to build on that. Well, he really hasn't. He had 37 points the year before and just 43 points last year. So I think Chandler Stevenson and Matty Beniers are both solid number 2 centers, but neither of them is a number 1. So you've got 2 number 2 centers, and one of them's got to play on the top line. Right now it's Matty Beniers because he's the younger guy. Stevenson, though, has been around the block, won some cups. We'll talk about him a little bit later on. Shane Wright is their third-line center. He had a very solid rookie season. He was the 4th pick in 2022. A lot of people thought he'd be the number 1 overall pick. He slid down to number 4, didn't start immediately with the Kraken, was in the AHL for a while, but kind of got his game together. And I thought last year he was pretty solid. I think he can be a really good third-line center for the Kraken. And Frederick Gaudreau is just a solid veteran, a good fourth-line guy. I really like the 2, 3, and 4 positions as far as the centers go for the Kraken. They just need that real top-line number 1 guy to lead them. And I think that is a solid group. But whether they do that or not, whether they can get that player or not going forward, that remains to be seen. Checking in at number 3 is our beloved LA Kings. Andrei Kopitar, top line center. Quentin Byfield at number 2. Philip Deneau at number 3. And we've got Alex Turcotte at the fourth line center position for now. We've talked about it on our previous show. Is it Turcotte? Is it Samuel Hellenius? I think it's going to be Turcotte, but we're giving him the benefit of the doubt for now and putting him in there. But that's a position that's certainly in competition for the LA Kings, in my opinion. Andrei Kopitar, continuing to get it done in what could be his final season coming up, which is going to be a big storyline going forward, but he's still producing at a high level, obviously still getting it done as a great two-way center as well. We've talked a lot about Quentin Byfield, up and coming. Where does he kind of rank in the Pacific Division as far as the young up and coming centers? I think he's right there in the mix. We expect bigger things, though, from him this year. Philip Deneau, just a solid veteran, a solid third line center for sure. And as we said, the fourth line center position a bit up for grabs for the Kings. Checking in at number 2 is the Vegas Golden Knights. A really impressive 1-2-3 punch for Vegas. Jack Eichel leading the way. 94 points last year for Eichel. He was 5th in the Hart Trophy voting for MVP of the league. He's a very good defensive player as well. I've been a guy who's been hard on Jack Eichel, I will have to say, because a lot of people were throwing the elite word around. And to me, that's a word that's reserved for people who win MVP awards. Now, he had a great year last year and he got some consideration. I don't know that he's ever going to be a guy, though, that's going to be an MVP player that's going to win a Hart Trophy. I think at best he's in the discussion, and that's still very good. I mean, if that's the worst you can criticize somebody. But it's just that some people seem to have him a little bit higher rated than I do, but he's still a very, very good player, and he's one of the best centers in the Pacific Division without question. The depth at the second and third center positions for Vegas is tremendous. Now, William Karlsson, I think he's an original Golden Knight. I'm pretty sure he is. Was hurt last year. So his numbers were way off what they normally are, just 29 points, but he was limited, missed much of the season. Tomas Hertl could be your second line center very easily. He's a terrific third line center if he's there. I think Karlsson and Hertl are interchangeable, and whoever is there is going to do a great job at the second line center position and do a great job at the third line center position. There's great depth for the Vegas Golden Knights. William Karlsson's a guy who can score 50, 60 points a year. Hertl had 61 points last year. So if William Karlsson can stay healthy and bounce back to what he's been typically for the Golden Knights, Vegas has the best 1-2-3 punch in the Pacific without question. And I would say one of the best 1-2-3 punches at the center position in the entire NHL. Colton Sissons is your fourth line center, and he's fine. He's a fourth line guy. Nothing big there. But Jack Eichel, William Karlsson, Tomas Hertl, or Eichel, Hertl, Karlsson, or however it ends up being, a terrific 1-2-3 down the middle for the Vegas Golden Knights. But you know who's number one. We hate him, but it is what it is, and that's the Edmonton Oilers. Because while Vegas has a great 1-2-3 punch, no one has a 1-2 punch like the Edmonton Oilers with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, two guys who are legit MVP candidates every year. McDavid's won the Hart Trophy 3 times. I thought Draisaitl should have won it last year. He's won it before as well. Connor Hellebuck won the Hart, the goaltender for Winnipeg. I thought Leon Draisaitl should have won it. I don't have a vote. If I did, I would have voted for him. We obviously know as Kings fans how good these two guys are. Now, sometimes they do play together, but typically they are listed as being on separate lines and both being centers. But we know that Draisaitl has certainly on occasion in big moments moved up to play on the wing with McDavid. But again, a terrific 1-2 punch. And it makes up for the third and fourth line centers of Adam Henrique and Matthias Janmark are not very good. As a matter of fact, I think maybe other than the Sharks and the Canucks, I think that's the worst third and fourth line centers of any of the teams in the Pacific Division. But it doesn't matter because their 1-2 punch is so good that there's no way you can't have the Oilers ranked number one. And again, I really like what Vegas has in the first, second, and third line center positions, but it's not that 1-2 punch that Edmonton has. Those two guys are legit elite of the elite, best of the best, future Hall of Famers. And unfortunately for the rest of the Pacific Division and specifically Kings fans, those guys likely aren't going anywhere for a while. I know McDavid is a UFA after this coming season. It'll be very interesting to see how that plays out. I fully expect him to re-sign with the Oilers. Now, maybe it will not be a long-term deal. It could be like a 4-year deal. I think he definitely wants to see kind of where the team is going, what direction they're going in. And I think winning the Stanley Cup for McDavid is incredibly important to cement his legacy as a all-time great. But anyway, the Oilers are number one, and it's because of McDavid and Draisaitl, and there really is no argument. They're so good that they can have a third and fourth line, center players that aren't very good, and they're still the number one group of centers in the Pacific Division. All right, coming up next, we are going to rank the top 10 individual centers in the Pacific Division. We'll do that next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day. It's a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week one even kicks off, this is your moment. So take a flyer on the MVP race. FanDuel has Baltimore Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson as their favorite to win the MVP. Crown your champion in August. FanDuel has the Bills, Ravens, and Eagles all as plus 700. If I got to pick from that group, I'll say let's go Buffalo. Or you could parlay your division winner, dark horse. How about my Pittsburgh Steelers at plus 500 to win the AFC North? Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. All right, we are wrapping up our look at the center position in the Pacific Division. And to wrap things up here, we're going to rank the top 10 centers in the Pacific Division. And at number 10, kind of like I was surprised at the Seattle Kraken being in the top 4 for me as far as their center position, their group of centers. I was surprised, but once I looked at the numbers, at number 10, I've got Chandler Stevenson of the Seattle Kraken. I had him edging out his teammate, Matty Beniers, for that number 10 spot. Now, Beniers is listed as the first line center and Stevenson the second line center, but if you look at the numbers, Stevenson was top 10 amongst Pacific Division centers in points and assists, whereas Beniers was tied for 10th in goals. He was not top 10 in points or assists, so I felt like Stevenson earned the edge. I think he's a guy, I don't know what direction Seattle's going in. I know that he just joined the team last year, but he's a guy I think would be very attractive to other teams come trade deadline. He's won multiple Stanley Cups. He won a cup in Washington. He won a cup in Vegas. He's locked up long-term at a very reasonable price. He's signed for the next 5 years at $6.25 million. He's 31 years old, so he's still got tread left on the tire. He does have a full no movement clause, so if he wants to stay in Seattle, he's going to stay, but I think he would be a very attractive trade piece for a contending team come trade deadline time. Checking in at number 9, I have Mason McTavish of the Anaheim Ducks. Again, a little bit interesting. Like Chandler Stevenson, he's listed as the second line center on the team. The first line center, Leo Carlsson, is not making my top 10 list, but McTavish had, again, better numbers across the board than Carlsson, so that's why he's the obvious choice. But I mentioned earlier, he's a restricted free agent, and the Ducks are playing some hardball with him, which is really weird because he's a good young player, exactly the type of guy you want to build your roster around, unless he's asking for something really absurd. I would pay him whatever the hell he wants, and we'll see where this goes. There's trade, rumors surrounding him. He hasn't said anything at this point. If he says at some point, screw it, I don't want to play for you guys, Pat Verbeek certainly seems like the type of GM that will get rid of him and trade him. I don't know why this seems to be so contentious, but certainly worth keeping tabs on. But I think Mason McTavish is the number 9 best center in the Pacific Division. Checking in at number 8 is Tomas Hertl of the Vegas Golden Knights. Certainly a guy who's been around the block, veteran guy. As far as looking at the top 10 centers in the Pacific, he was 7th in points, 3rd in goals, and 12 in assists. And on his team, he was third in points and second in goals. Tomas Hertl, solid guy. He's in the top 10 for sure of centers in the Pacific Division. His teammate, William Karlsson, if he has a bounce back year, certainly would be amongst the top 10 as well. And that goes for Elias Pettersson, we talked about earlier for Vancouver. If he can get back on track, I think he could be in the top 10 certainly as well. Checking in at number 7 is Quentin Byfield of our LA Kings. He checks in. If you look at his numbers compared to Tomas Hertl, they're comparable. Now, Hertl's a better goal scorer, and he had a few more points than Byfield, but Byfield did have more assists, but it was close. For me, though, the difference is the all-around game. Byfield is a much better defensive player than Tomas Hertl is. Hertl's not much of a defensive player at all. So because it was close, I took into consideration the all-around game. I think Byfield's the better defensive player, and that's why I got him as number 7 on our list of top 10 centers in the Pacific Division. Checking in at number 6 is Macklin Celebrini, the fantastic-looking young rookie from a year ago for the San Jose Sharks. He's entrenched there as being the guy they're really going to build around. There's other young pieces as well. We talked about Will Smith. William Eklund is a young winger that's playing with Celebrini on the top line. So they're going to go through their growing pains and their lumps. But Macklin Celebrini, to me, already has really shown himself to be an elite level talent. Put up good numbers last year. I've got him at number 6. Number 5, I'm going with Nazem Kadri of the Calgary Flames, probably our grittiest center on this list of top 10 centers. Matter of fact, not even arguably, or he is. He's a gritty guy. I think he's definitely the number 1 center right now in the Calgary Flames, but he's a guy who I think on a really good team, on a contending team, is a great number 2 center. I don't know that he's a if you're a team that's going to go deep in the playoffs and Nazem Kadri is your number 1 center, that's probably not a great situation. As it stands right now, we'll see. But he's still a really, really good player. Won a cup in Colorado where he was their number 2 center behind Nathan McKinnon. Was the number 2 guy in Toronto on some successful teams. So I think he's suited as a really, really good number 2 center. I think he's a serviceable number 1 center. But hey, he's top 10 in the Pacific Division at the center position for me, checking in at number 5. At number 4, I have our captain, Anze Kopitar, still getting it done. Again, like when you compare him to Nazem Kadri, he had more points than Kadri. He had more assists than Kadri. Kadri did have more goals than Kopitar, but again, Kopitar, the far superior defensive player, was 8th in the Selke Trophy voting. So I've got Anze Kopitar at number 4. Checking in at number 3, Jack Eichel of the Vegas Golden Knights. We talked about him already. Finished 5th in the Hart Trophy voting, also 5th in the Selke voting as well. So a guy who does it at both ends. And I certainly think he's right now a better player overall than Anze Kopitar. He hasn't had a better career than Kopitar at this point, but right now you'd have to rank him ahead of Kopitar. And checking in, I think we know who's 1 and 2, but who's 1 and who's 2? I've got Connor McDavid at number 2. Now, certainly he's got more hardware than his teammate, who we're going to mention in a moment at this point. But what separates the two is not only did the guy at number 1 have better stats a year ago, he's also a really good defensive player. And I think that goes a long way. While McDavid is still tremendous, I've got him as the number 2 center in the Pacific Division. And number 1 is his teammate, Leon Draisaitl, who was the number 1 point producer at the center position out of any player in the Pacific Division last year. He was number 1 in goals, 3rd in assists, and he was 6th in the Selke Trophy voting. Connor McDavid got as many votes in the Selke Trophy voting as you and I did, 0. So Draisaitl again, getting it done at both ends of the ice. I thought he should have been the MVP last year. He wasn't. And I know as Kings fans, it's hard to see those 2 guys there, and they'll likely be there for a while, but it is what it is. I got Leon Draisaitl as the number 1 center in the Pacific Division. So, what did you think about the list? Do you agree? Do you disagree? I thought it was pretty good. The Kings had two top 10 centers in that mix there. And I think that's very legitimately so. Also, I didn't know, if you look at, I think the Selke Trophy voting, for defense, defense is obviously a very important component of being a good center. The Kings had 3 different players get votes for the Selke Trophy. Now, granted, Quentin Byfield got 1 vote, but that was 1 more vote than Connor McDavid did. So to have 3 different players, Philip Deneau actually got a decent number of votes, and Andrei Kopitar finished 8th in the voting. There was no other team in the Pacific Division that had even 2 players at the center position get votes for the Selke. Eichel got some votes. We talked about that earlier. But I thought that was pretty good for Kings fans. We can kind of hang our head on that. We know the Kings are solid defensively, and it's because of defensive play at the center position that really kind of leads the way. So hope you guys enjoyed that. It was fun for me to do that. I learned a little bit more about the division than I did before. And again, if you agree or disagree, you're certainly welcome to share your thoughts with our fan feedback show coming up at the end of the week. For you everydayers, those of you that listen and watch Locked on LA Kings every day, coming up on our next show, Austin Stanovich, the Sporting Tribune, going to stop by to give us his thoughts on the Kings offseason moves. And we'll wrap up the week with our fan feedback show as well. Your chance to ask any questions or share your thoughts on any of the shows we've had so far this week, including this one as well. The email address to get in on that is lockedoneddie@gmail.com, EDDIE. You can always leave your comments if you're watching on YouTube in the comment section as well. Stay interact with the show on social media, X, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We are at Locked On LA Kings. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thank you for listening and watching this episode of Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you next time. And as always, go Kings, go.